Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside today will reach 75.5 degrees, with a low of 54.6, so it's a great day to spend some time outdoors. Coming up on Alex's News, we'll explore how the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris could potentially reshape American politics. We'll also take a look at possible scenarios for how the 2024 U.S. election night might unfold. Plus, we'll discuss the potential impact of Boeing's new labor deal on the aerospace industry. Stay tuned for these stories and more on Alex's News. We're now turning to our top story of the morning, the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Joining us to discuss this historic race is our political correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, can you give us an overview of what's happening today?
Certainly, Grace. Today, November 5th, 2024, Americans are heading to the polls to choose between Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris in what's shaping up to be a highly consequential election.
This election has certainly taken some unexpected turns. Can you remind our viewers how we got to this point?
Absolutely. The path to today's election took a dramatic turn on July 21st of this year. That's 107 days ago, when incumbent President Joe Biden withdrew his bid for re-election. This came after a poor debate performance against Donald Trump on June 27th, which raised concerns about Biden's age and fitness for office.
What led to Biden's decision to step down?
According to reports, Biden faced mounting pressure from within the Democratic Party. Over 30 senior Democrats publicly urged him to step down, and his campaign saw declining poll numbers and fundraising, particularly in key battleground states. Upon withdrawing, Biden immediately endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as his successor.
How did Harris secure the Democratic nomination so quickly?
Harris moved swiftly to consolidate support. She secured enough state delegate endorsements to become the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, which was formalized through a virtual roll call vote in early August.
Now, Ethan, where are the candidates focusing their efforts in these final hours?
According to reporting from Al Jazeera, both Trump and Harris have been concentrating on 7 crucial battleground states: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, and Nevada. These states are critical due to their electoral votes and could ultimately determine the outcome of the election.
What can you tell us about voter turnout so far?
We're seeing high voter engagement, Grace. Over 77 million Americans have already cast their ballots through early in-person voting or mail-in ballots. Interestingly, there's a notable gender divide in support. An NBC News poll shows women favoring Harris by 16 percentage points, while men are leaning towards Trump by 18 points.
Both candidates have faced unique challenges in this race. Can you elaborate on that?
Certainly. Trump's campaign has been complicated by a criminal conviction and pending felony charges. If elected, he would be the oldest president at 78 and the first to be convicted of a felony while in office. On the other hand, Harris has achieved record fundraising and voter registration efforts. Her potential victory would be historic. She'd be the first woman, the first black woman, and the first person of South Asian descent to become president of the United States.
What are the candidates' plans for Election Day?
Trump plans to cast his vote in Florida and spend the day at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Harris, who has already voted by mail in California, will host a watch party at her alma mater, Howard University, in Washington.
When can we expect to know the results?
That's a great question, Grace. The counting of votes is still in progress, and the results may take days or even weeks to be finalized, especially if the margins are close in key swing states. Federal, state, and local officials have expressed confidence in the integrity of the electoral systems, but remain vigilant against foreign disinformation and potential cyber attacks.
Thank you, Ethan, for this comprehensive update on the 2024 presidential election. We'll be sure to keep our viewers informed as results come in throughout the day and night.
You're welcome, Grace. It's certainly an election that will shape the direction of the United States for the next 4 years and potentially reshape global geopolitics.
Indeed it is. Thanks again, Ethan. And viewers, stay tuned as we continue our coverage of this historic election day. We're now turning to our coverage of the upcoming 2024 U.S. presidential election. Joining us to discuss what voters need to know is our political correspondent, Chloe. Chloe, can you give us an overview of what to expect on Election Day?
Certainly, Grace. Election Day is set for November 5, 2024, which is exactly 365 days from today. It's shaping up to be one of the most closely watched and contested elections in recent history. Voters across the nation are preparing to cast their ballots, and there are several key points they should be aware of.
Let's start with the basics. What do voters need to know about voting procedures and timelines?
Well, Grace, polling hours can vary by state, but generally, polls are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's important to note that if you're in line by closing time, you'll still be allowed to vote. Many states offer same-day voter registration, but it's always a good idea to check your registration status and polling place in advance.
What about identification requirements? I know those can differ from state to state.
You're right, Grace. ID requirements do vary significantly. Some states require photo IDs, while others will accept utility bills or bank statements showing your name and address. It's crucial for voters to check their state's specific requirements before heading to the polls.
We've seen a lot of early voting and mail-in voting in recent elections. Is that trend continuing?
Absolutely. According to reports from various state election offices, tens of millions of ballots have already been cast through early voting and mail-in voting before Election Day. This trend has been growing since the 2020 election and continues to be a popular option for many voters.
Let's talk about the candidates. Who are the main contenders in this presidential race?
The Republican nominee is former President Donald Trump, while the Democratic nominee is Vice President Kamala Harris. It's worth noting that Vice President Harris stepped in after President Biden withdrew from the race in July, which was a significant development in the campaign.
That certainly shook things up. Are there any particular states we should be watching closely?
Yes, there are several key swing states that political analysts are keeping a close eye on. These include Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada. The outcomes in these states could be crucial in determining the overall result of the election.
Now, Chloe, one thing that's always a hot topic on election night is when we can expect results. What can you tell us about that?
That's an excellent point, Grace. It's important for viewers to understand that the results reported on election night are unofficial. The final tallies will be certified by election officials in the days or weeks following the election. The speed of vote counting varies significantly by state, largely due to different rules for processing mail-in ballots.
Can you elaborate on how these rules might affect the timing of results?
Certainly. According to reporting from the Associated Press, states like Arizona, Georgia, and Michigan have expanded their ability to process mail ballots before Election Day, which could potentially speed up their results. However, states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin still face restrictions on processing mail-in ballots before Election Day, which may delay their results.
So it sounds like patience will be key as we wait for the final outcomes. Any last advice for our viewers as they prepare for Election Day?
Absolutely, Grace. Voters should be cautious of rumors and unsubstantiated claims about election irregularities. It's crucial to rely on official sources for information. Many states offer online ballot tracking for mail-in votes, and voters can use online portals or contact local election offices to verify their registration and find their polling places.
Thank you, Chloe, for this comprehensive overview of what to expect for the 2024 presidential election. We appreciate your insights.
You're welcome, Grace. It's an important election, and we'll continue to keep viewers informed as we approach November 5th.
Indeed we will. Thanks again, Chloe. Now let's move on to our final story of the morning. Here are some other headlines. A Pennsylvania judge has ruled that Elon Musk's $1 million a day voter sweepstakes can proceed through the presidential election despite legal concerns. The initiative, aimed at supporting voter registration in key battleground states, has faced criticism for potentially violating laws against compensating individuals for registering to vote. Abortion rights are on the ballot in 9 states across the U.S. in 2024, including Arizona, Florida, and Missouri. These measures could significantly impact abortion access for millions of women, particularly in states with current bans or strict restrictions. North Korean troops deployed to Russia have reportedly come under fire from Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region. This marks a significant escalation in the conflict, with estimates suggesting up to 12,000 North Korean combat troops may be supporting Russian war efforts. Spain's King Felipe VI faced a hostile reception during a visit to flood-ravaged Paiporta, where he was hit by mud thrown by angry residents. Despite the chaos, the king insisted on engaging with the crowd, potentially marking a pivotal moment in his reign. Major retailers like Amazon, Walmart, and Target are increasingly offering returnless refunds for low-cost items to enhance customer satisfaction and reduce processing costs. This practice is part of a broader shift in retail return policies, though concerns over potential fraud remain. We turn now to a major development in the aerospace industry. After a 53-day strike that has significantly impacted Boeing and the U.S. economy, there's been a breakthrough. Our reporter Ethan has been following this story closely. Ethan, what can you tell us about the resolution of this strike?
Well, Grace, according to reporting from OregonLive.com, unionized machinists at Boeing voted yesterday to accept a new contract offer, effectively ending the strike that began on September 13th. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers District in Seattle conducted the vote, with 59% of members approving Boeing's fourth formal offer.
That's quite a development, Ethan. Can you break down some of the key aspects of this new contract for us?
Certainly, Grace. The new contract includes several significant improvements for the workers. First and foremost, there's a substantial pay raise. Workers will receive a 38% wage increase over 4 years, which actually compounds to about 43.65%. This means the average annual pay for machinists will rise from $75,608 to $119,309 by the end of the 4-year contract period.
That's a considerable increase. Are there any other notable benefits in the contract?
Yes, there are. The contract also includes a $12,000 ratification bonus for hourly workers. Additionally, there are increased contributions to 401k retirement savings plans. However, it's worth noting that Boeing did not agree to restore the pension plan that was frozen nearly a decade ago. Overall, this contract sets a new standard for compensation and wages in the aerospace industry.
I see. Now, Ethan, this strike lasted for quite some time. What kind of economic impact did it have?
The economic impact was substantial, Grace. According to analysis from Perplexity AI, the strike cost the U.S. economy over $11.5 billion. Boeing itself suffered losses of approximately $6.5 billion. By the end of the strike, the company's suppliers lost an estimated $144 million, and the striking workers incurred over $600 million in lost wages. Even non-Boeing workers in the Seattle area felt the impact, losing an estimated $25 million.
Those are staggering figures. How soon can Boeing resume its operations?
Well, Grace, while the resolution allows Boeing to start resuming production, it's not going to be an immediate process. Boeing's CEO, Kelly Ortberg, has indicated it might take a couple of weeks to fully resume operations. This is partly due to potential retraining needs for the returning workforce.
And what about the long-term impacts of this strike and its resolution, Ethan?
The long-term impacts are expected to be significant, Grace. This strike sets a precedent for wage and benefit standards in the aerospace industry, which could influence future labor negotiations across the sector. Boeing now faces challenges in financial recovery, production schedules, and customer relationships due to the strike's impact on shipments and production time.
That's certainly a lot for Boeing to navigate moving forward. When can we expect the workers to return to their jobs?
According to the Richmond Register, the 33,000 union workers, mostly in the Seattle area but also including 1,200 in Oregon, were set to return to work as soon as tomorrow, November 6th, or by November 12th at the latest. This resolution came just in time for Election Day, which is today, and marks a significant step for Boeing in resuming its operations and stabilizing its financial situation.
Thank you, Ethan, for that comprehensive report on this major development in the aerospace industry. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on how this plays out in the coming weeks and months.
You're welcome, Grace. It's definitely a story worth following closely.
Indeed it is. Thanks again, Ethan. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King, with Claude Sonnet 3.5, the Perplexity API, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.